This will provide an overview of the 2020 Salary Survey Report. This is a report that is offered every other year by the Midwest Center for Nonprofit Leadership in partnership with the partners listed here on this page. Our table of contents lists the individual sections of the report. It also shows you where to find the salary and wage data by individual positions. So you'll find that there on page 16, salary and wage data, and this is where all of those individual tables begin for those specific positions. So this is an area where organizations seek to find information about various positions and what the salaries are for those by organizational size. So you can find that on page 16. Thereafter, at the end of the report and at the end of those tables, you'll find the appendices. The appendices will not only have definitions about some of the terms used throughout the report, but you'll also see there that the last appendix is position descriptions. So if you are looking at a particular position and you'd like to know specifically how we defined that, you can find that there on page 83. Next, we have a list of graphics. This includes the initial map that defines our greater Kansas City metropolitan area, which is also described in the content of the report, as well as our tables, a list of our tables, and a list of figures. So if you are looking for something specific, you can find that in the table of contents here. As I mentioned, the salary survey report and the benefits survey report have been divided. They historically were together as one report and one large survey, and now we have separated those to every other year. So the salary survey and the benefits survey are biannual. In 2020, we have the salary survey. Next year, we will have the benefits survey. And there is some information about benefits within the salary survey, but it is about specific things not related to your traditional benefits. So we will go through that a little bit further into the report. But this will only cover salary information primarily. And then we also look at specifics about the year itself and how that impacted salaries. So every time we do a salary survey, we ask a question about something that is relevant to that year that may or may not impact salaries and planning for salaries. So this year, not surprisingly, we asked about COVID-19 and how that impacted organizations' view of salaries and potentially what their planning would look like around future salaries and how it might be impacted by COVID-19. Similar to years past, we had 194 survey responses in 2020. So we've had a similar number of survey responses in years past. Of those 194 survey responses, we had 170 that were 501c3 organizations. The remainder were 501c4 and 501c6 organizations. Those were analyzed separately. So for the bulk of this report, you will see information summarized from the 501c3s. We have by organization size broken down, you can see from under $250,000 as a reported annual budget up to the over $25 million reported budget. And in between those, we have the various ranges. So this is how we look at the information throughout this report is by organization size. So we'll look at each detail by organization size. You will also see that in the tables. That's how we have the salary information for each position broken down. You'll be able to see it by organization size there as well. We also look at the information by geographic area and how an organization is reporting where exactly their organization is at. So are they a national organization? Are they multi-state or regional? Are they a state organization, so either just in Kansas or just in Missouri? Are they a metropolitan area organization? So that would be defined by that Kansas City metro area map there in the introduction of the report. Or are they a county or local municipality organization or some other form of organization? So we look at that in the salary information in the tables as well as throughout the report. We also look at the type of organization. So we have many categories of organizations. Those definitions are also provided in the appendices, but these are some of the main categories that organizations indicate. And then we have all other organization types, which we go into more detail in those appendices as well. Here we look at staffing and compensation trends. So every time we do this report, we offer the number of positions added, the number of positions anticipated, and the number of positions eliminated. And then we compare that to the last time that we had this report. So the last report we had in 2018, we had a difference there. So you can see that the rate of positions eliminated in 2019 overall was lower, with 15% of full-time positions eliminated compared to 22% in 2018. And 4% of part-time positions were eliminated compared to 12% in 2018. Later in the report, as I said before, we'll have a question about COVID-19 and how that relates to people's planning for the organization and salaries or positions. So we'll get into that later, but this gives you an overall summary of what people reported at the time of the survey. We also ask about restructuring and what impacted decisions around that. So was it budget restrictions, grant termination or non-renewal of a grant, a program or position termination, or were they just eliminated a particular program or position, or if it was just general restructuring, and whether or not that had a high importance, a low importance, or somewhere in between in terms of planning for positions. Next, we look at turnover rates. So we look at the turnover rate every time and compare it to the last time we offered the survey. So this year in 2020, of those organizations participating, 29% reported no turnover in the last year, which is a 2% increase in organizations that reported maintaining their staffing levels from what was reported in 2018. Now, something that we note in the bulk of the report and something to take note of when looking at a graph like this is that not all of the same organizations complete the survey year after year. So the collection of organizations that we had in 2018 completing the survey and those we had in 2020 completing the survey are not necessarily a side-by-side comparison, but many do complete the survey every time. So it is a snapshot of the Kansas City metro area nonprofits to see what is the turnover rate every time we do this report. Next, we look at the demographics of leadership. So for many of the graphs and the charts that you'll see following this is focused on the executive level positions. So here we're looking at the breakdown of demographics within those top executive positions. So executive director, associate executive director, and so on. And the definitions of those positions are located in the appendices again. Another question that we ask is about internships. So many organizations rely on internships for their employees. So we have interns that are high school students or have a high school education, undergraduate students or graduate students. And so we're looking at the distribution of internships across those three levels of education. And then we also look at the type of compensation. Are these paid or unpaid internships? And if they are paid, are they hourly or are they provided some sort of stipend? And then what is the median rate for that pay? We also ask organizations how they're determining their anticipated salary increases in 2020. So with the information that they have, are they looking at it on performance or merit? Are they looking at employee retention concerns or budget restrictions or some other issue? And we have them rate that from low importance to high importance. And you can see here how those are impacting organizations' decisions on anticipated salary increases. Just below that, on this page and the following page, we have those executive level positions and we have some benefits broken down. These are not traditional health benefits or vacation or paid leave or anything like that. These are extraneous benefits that are specific to those executive level positions. So we look at the executive director, associate executive director, and CFO on this page. And then on the next page, we see the vice president positions. Again, those are defined in the appendices, but we ask about things such as, are these positions offered vehicle leases, a car allowance for that position, if they're doing a lot of travel of some kind, what is paid for in terms of professional development, continuing education, if they have some sort of allotment for paid attendance to conferences or for memberships, different types of memberships, and so on. You can see the list there in the table. So that's asked of each of those executive level positions. So we have that broken down as well. As we mentioned, we ask a question every time we do this survey that hopefully offers some sort of insight into a current situation that might be impacting nonprofits. In this case, for 2020, we look at COVID-19 and ask how that is impacting organizations in terms of how they are planning for compensation in regards to salaries and their employees. These are the tables where we look at national and local trends. So we're looking at each of those executive level positions, and we're looking at them by organization's annual budget size, Kansas City salaries versus what the national average is. So the national averages are drawn from our GuideStar averages. You can see the report cited there at the bottom, and we look at those compared to what was reported in the survey that was given out this year. So the one highlighted under VP of programs for the budget range of $250,000 to $499,900 is the only salary from this year's survey that was reported with a higher average than the national average. So you can see all of those broken down there for each of those executive level positions comparison. When we look at the gender pay gap and we're looking at women versus men's salaries in the executive level positions, we see in the 2020 report that there are two positions, the VP of Administration and the VP of Programs, that report a higher average annual salary for women. When we look at the 2018 report versus the 2020 report, we also see that the gender pay gap narrowed or exceeded that of men for women of 5 of the 6 top positions. So women earned more in the role of VP of Administration and VP of Programs, as we said, and they increased their percentage of salaries over the 2018 report. So women had gains in all other roles with the exception of the Chief Financial Officer. And we've looked at that position in the previous graphs as well, with some differences from the 2018 reporting. So it's possible that that position lost some people in that role, or that different organizations were reporting for that role this year, and that's why we're seeing some of the differences there. That could also be a possibility. So as we said, women in executive director positions reported a higher annual salary than men from the 2018 report, but the pay gap is widest in the very large organizations. Next, we look at that question regarding the impact of COVID-19. So when asked if organizations expected COVID-19 to impact their staffing situation, we were given the options of extremely unlikely to extremely likely, and about 30% indicated that they felt it was extremely likely or likely at the time of completing this survey, so spring and summer of this year of 2020, that it would have some sort of impact on their staffing situation. So for example, our first table is the first description of the executive director position as president. In that position, you'll see some blank spaces here where positions were either not reported for that organization type or for that budget size, or there were too few organizations, which you can see by the number of organizations and the number of cases reported. For those that we have enough data for, you'll see those in the averages and the medians and the ranges, which we do not have for this particular description of executive director, but we do for others. But you do see the averages of all organizations and those ranges called out at the top in that top line. The executive director position has 3 different descriptions, 3 different definitions for that position. And so this is the second of those 3, and you see the information for that here. And this is the third of that executive director position, the third of 3 descriptions, and that information provided here. Here, as an example, we're looking at the Associate Executive Director table. If you look at the bottom of that table where it says number of employees, this is the number of employees for the organization. Then you look at the number of organizations, and for example, 12 organizations who have 1 to 5 total employees are reporting somebody in an associate executive director position. And this is the average and the median of those 12 organizations for that position. We only had one organization in that criteria that reported a salary range. So we don't have a minimum and maximum that we can provide as an average for all of those organizations because only one did provide that. So that information is excluded here, but you do see a range for organizations that have 6 to 10 employees. 19 organizations reported within this grouping. And you see the average salary, the median salary, and then we also have the range from 4 organizations that provided that information. To look at a couple of examples of these salary tables, here we're looking at major gifts or planned giving manager. If we look at the top of all organizations reporting someone in this position, we see the number of organizations, which is 23. We see the number of full-time employees reporting for this position, which is 29. That may mean that some organizations have more than one person in this position. They may be part-time, they may be full-time, and we've calculated out averages and medians based on full-time or whole positions. So you can see the number there, and then you see the number of cases. So this is the number of positions that we're reporting an average or a minimum and a maximum range, rather. So not every single organization is reporting a range of salary for this position, so we may actually get the actuals for that salary, but we may not get a range reported. So that's where you see some of those differences. You may see that an organization or a group of organizations is reporting the actual salary for this planned giving manager position, but when asked if there's a specific range or a specified range that they try to stay within, then they may not report that information. So that's why there's some differences there. When you look at the most reported educational requirement on the far right, sometimes you will see more than one, and that would be if there are only a couple of organizations, maybe 3 organizations reporting, and they all have different educational requirements. We've included those. Otherwise, it is the most reported of that group of organizations reporting for that position. After the salary tables, we have the appendices. Appendix A offers the definitions of some of the terms we use throughout the report. Appendix B offers a list of HR management resources. Appendix C is 501c6 association specific data. And Appendix D is survey participation, the number of organizations by type of organization and the percentage of the whole. Here we have a list of participating organizations and associations.